Hello again, everyone. Hope you're well on this Tuesday. It is December the 2nd, and it's like 50 degrees, partly cloudy. Sun's trying to come through here. That's why I got my shade up here. If it was just a little longer, if it was just a little, had that extension, it'd be fine. It'd be even better. But it's kind of working. I wanted to talk about several things in this video. I'm going to talk about the storms, like the physical, the real storms that are affecting the country. Also, automobile repossessions are up, like way up. And this economy, it's not sustainable, y'all. And what can we do about it? How can we mitigate? How can we, as preparedness people, what can we do? And with all the talk about how the civility is gone and people are rude, and yes, I think it's worse than it used to be. Yes, it has, depending on where you are too. There are still good deeds going on out there. People are still doing good. I'm going to tell you about an example, so stay with me. It's encouraging. I have an encouraging passage from the Bible I will share with you as well. So stay tuned for that. But first, some news. This storm, it sounds like much of the country is getting hit with winter weather, winter storms, Northeast, some of the Midwest as well. I know here we're pretty seasonal, right? You know, but I saw where there was just, and it's going to be with us for a while, a big Arctic blast coming through and going to stay for, looks like maybe a few weeks. So stay safe out there. Don't take unnecessary risks, right? So be safe. Stay warm. Hope you have done your preparations as far as winter. And that's depending a lot too on where you live. I mean, if you live in the Northeast, you know, it's a different animal from if you were in somewhere, some parts of Arizona or Miami, Florida, you know, even South Georgia. You know, it's different from South Georgia is very different from here. I mean, you know, we're almost like Tennessee, you know, weather type, you know, which is a little bit cooler than you would, you know, cooler generally than you would see in the south of South Georgia, especially the coast. The current administration, the Trump administration, is saying that they will soon, they say, well, very soon, they will conduct land strikes on cartels and any other country that is suspected of trafficking drugs into the United States. Anyone is subject to attack, not just Venezuela, as far as if they are suspected of funneling drugs in here. Didn't say exactly when, says soon. Now that could include targets in Mexico, y'all. Our neighbor to the south. So, you know, I believe we should amp up our, just keep our situational awareness up, especially in public places, especially if you're in a large or fairly large town or city. We know that millions of people are here that were not here a few years ago. And we don't know, we don't know what some of their intentions are. A lot of them, maybe millions, maybe. Yes, I'm sure there in that group, there are people that are hardworking, want a better life. I'm sure. Now, they should do the legal path to become a citizen, in my opinion. But many of them probably aren't a danger. You know, they're just trying to work hard. But there are a good number that are not here for goodwill, not here to do good. We know this. We've seen examples of this very recently, right? And so let's amp up the security, especially if and when these attacks start to pop off, y'all. I mean, my concern is that will trigger some folks that are here, that have been here for a few years or more, to do something. I'll just put it that way. Just keep aware, keep alert. I saw a report, and this was out of an Atlanta media source, talking about mostly Metro Atlanta, but I believe this is pretty much, you could say, for the nation of the United States, is that the number of automobile repossessions is growing. People are defaulting on their auto loans 40% more than just 2 years ago. Think about that. 40% more than just 2 years. That's not very long. I think it's a sign of the times. Now, there are many reasons for that. You have people that are, that don't do well with money and spend money they don't have. Yes. I think there's predatory kind of stuff going on. I mean, people, take advantage of people. I want that car. I got to have that car. Hey, got to have it. I can do it. That's a lot of it too. I also believe, though, when you're talking about 40% more than just 2 years ago, I believe it's also a sign of the times as far as cost of living just crushing people, and the economy on top of it. I mean, you have a storm brewing in itself with, when you've got layoffs, inflation, cost of living still up, and this economy is in a spiral right now, I believe. There are economic experts, that are predicting a crash anywhere from any time now to 2-3 years out. There's no doubt, the government, no matter who's in charge, the government spends more money, way more money than they take in. This is continuing. It's accelerating. I mean, it's getting to the point to where just the interest payments on the debt alone is reaching a point where they just can't do it. It's so large. Just like if we managed our personal finances in the same way, it comes to a point to where you just flat out broke. There's no credit left, and the chips fall where they may, and it's not pretty. It's ugly. And that is the direction right now, unless something changes, and the government somehow spends a lot less, which would require pain. I mean, let's face it, on all these things, makes huge cuts in a lot of areas. And that's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And so you have a situation to where it's just a matter of time. The music stops and it gets ugly. And I believe that's where we're heading. Now, when, I think you're seeing, signs. I believe, and I'm not an expert by any means, y'all. I believe that we need to prepare, because and many of you are, I know, kind of preaching to the choir, I know. I believe what is coming our way is going to be way worse than the Great Depression of the 30s. I just say it. That's what I believe. Unless something changes, unless there's some type of course correction or some type of big change going on, which could happen, we're not heading in a pretty place. How do you prepare? We can keep preparing like we're doing. We can think about what our parents, maybe what our grandparents did to survive and get through the 1930s and that Great Depression. I believe this could be worse. I really do. We've been watching, I've been saying this before, we've been watching the show, the old reruns of the show The Waltons, which that show went on for some years, but was set in the Great Depression. The story was told as, during the 1930s. And much of it, they don't dwell too much on it, but they do make it, in every episode, they remind you that this family is making sacrifices, is pulling together to work hard, to solve problems, to make it in tough times. I mean, they mentioned sometimes, jobs are hard to find. Money's super tight. We're on a shoestring budget here. There's very little to no margin for error, for mistakes, for emergencies. The banks are by and large closed. As common as hearing them say sometimes, are the banks open? Are the banks open? Some are, and then some are, starting to open or something. That's the rumor, and then the rumor goes around. And is it true? They're dealing with that. It's kind of, it's really something to watch. But what can you do? I mean, I know this is not 1930s, but some things don't change. I mean, can you be creative? Can you get a second job? Can you do a gig? Can you work a little more hours? Can you do a little overtime? It's sad. It's really sad. We shouldn't have to do that, but it is reality. Mrs. Dog does overtime when she can. She asks for it. And it gets approved most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't. Often, by the time I get home, and she's working, when on the days she works, most days she works from home, she's still working. I prepare dinner, she's still working. She's making some overtime. It's not because we're going to necessarily, lose the house or anything like that. We're not in any danger of that. We're doing well. But under the circumstances, we're doing pretty well. But it's because we are anticipating what is coming. One of us gets laid off. One of us has an illness. One of us gets cut back, or hours get cut back, or something like that. Maybe there comes a time when they say no more overtime. That's what we're preparing for. We're preparing for what if some of the banks start to close. Be thinking that way, if you're not already. There was a line in one of the Walton's episodes where the dad, I love the dad. The granddad's awesome too. But the dad is like, no, it wasn't the dad. It was the narrator towards the end of one of the episodes, and he said the dad's awesome though. The narrator says, we pulled together, during these tough times. This was during the Great Depression. We did what it took to get by. Everybody contributed, but he said we shared what we had with those in need, and we lent a hand. We offered to help people, even though they're in tough times and they're scraping by, and they show it, and they also demonstrate it in the show. I think that's an important point. We still shared what we had. We still helped others in need. I think that's important, y'all, because when you help, when you share, it comes back. It comes back on you, doesn't it? It really does. Thought that was important. It just stood out to me. But they're also working some long hours. Sometimes it takes that. And I think it's taking it. I think it takes it now, really, y'all, to really put extra back. Prepare for things to come down. And hopefully it doesn't. If it don't, you're in an even better position. Good deeds are still happening out there. A coworker of mine shared with our little team today, her husband helped out somebody yesterday. She said that her husband was at Wal-Mart yesterday picking up a few things on the way home from work, and she knew he was going to do this, but he called her and told her, "I'm going to be a little late. I'm going to help somebody out." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" He told her, he said, "Well, I was coming out of Walmart and I noticed two young ladies had bought they were struggling. They had bought I think she said a TV or computer. It must have been a TV that was a little too large for their vehicle. They couldn't get it in their car. So he offered to take it to their home because he has a truck and they weren't very far away. So it wasn't out of the way for him. He said, "I'm going to help them get this. I'm going to take their TV home to them. I'm just going to follow them home. And she was, she said at the time, she was like, well, is that safe? I mean, this day and time, I mean, it makes you think really too. I mean, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought twice. I mean, really, unless the person, unless you're getting bad vibes and all this kind of stuff. Depends on the situation. And evidently they trusted him enough to put their TV they just bought in his truck. But they did. And he did. He put it in his truck, put the TV in there, and followed them home and got it in there for them. That was really cool. It's not like it was really that bad out of his way, though. But still, those are things that are, I think more, that kind of stuff happens more than we probably realize. It's not going to be reported. That's why I like to mention things like that. It still happens, y'all. What can we do? Don't put yourself at risk. Don't take unnecessary risks, But let's keep that in mind. I'm going to go to a verse. I'm going back to Matthew. I'm just staying with Matthew, Sermon on the Mount. Some specific verses were standing out to me. So that's Matthew chapter 5. First was verse 3. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 says, from the words of Jesus, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Let's keep our humility, y'all, and our reliance on him. That's what that says to me. Also in verse 7, blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Amen. And then down in verse 11, blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Amen. Amen that. Keep it in mind. Do not be afraid. I believe when we get to heaven, we're going to see people with crowns that you just wouldn't expect, right? Mm-hmm. People you don't know. They're not celebrity. They're not the big names you've heard of. They're just like nobodies, really. In this world, they're a nobody, really. Kind of, not in God's eyes, not in our eyes, but they're going to have crowns. So share your thoughts. Share any prep tips. The comments are great. Read through the comments. You'll get some good ideas, some good prep tips, some good education. There's a lot of good information in those comments. Y'all are awesome. So stay alert. Be safe. Stay close to Jesus. God bless you. I'll see you soon.